All right, guys, I thought we'd have some real talk about ISO here, and let's just jump right into it. You see, I'm outside here on a bright, sunny day. I've got my Canon M6 with a 30mm f1.4 lens. What that means is the lowest f-stop I can get to is f1.4 on this lens, and that's really, really a huge aperture, which lets in tons of light, which is going to make things interesting here. So let's go and get started. I got my dog Chase here and my other dog Luna, who you can see there. They're both good pups. And I'm outside on a bright sunny day, so I'm going to set the ISO on this camera to 100, and you can see I'm already at that right there. And let's just take a look at what this photo would look like if I try to take it. And you can see it's a little overexposed, and the reason why is because even at ISO 100, which is the best ISO for shooting on a bright sunny day, the aperture is so wide open we're letting in too much light. And even at 1/4000th of a second, which is the fastest shutter speed this camera has, I cannot get a dark enough image. So I'm going to raise up my f-stop to like f4 instead of f1.4, and then we'll try it again. Okay, so I'm at f4 at ISO 100 outside, and I'm going to go and take this picture. And you can see the shutter speed the camera is recommending is 1/1600, 1/1250. It kind of changes as my dog moves around. 1/1600, 1/2000. Just kind of depends, but you can see that's a nice properly exposed image, and that looks really good. And that's a really fast shutter speed. So when we're shooting outside on bright sunny days like it is today, you can shoot at ISO 100. You can get a nice fast shutter speed. If for whatever reason your shutter speed isn't quite fast enough, there's nothing wrong with maybe cranking that ISO up to 200. But remember, we always want to use the lowest ISO that we can that still gives us a good exposure and a good shutter speed for what we want. And in this case, there's almost nothing that I could be photographing that moves fast enough that 1/1000 or 2000 is not going to be a fast enough shutter speed. So I'm really happy with that ISO here outside on a bright sunny day. Okay, here we are in the shade in front of my house, and look at the huge difference at f4. My shutter speed is now, hey, sit. My shutter speed is now 1/125, 1/160, which is fine. If we're just sitting here, I can still shoot at ISO 100 unless I need to really be concerned about freezing motion, which if all he's going to be doing is sitting like that, I don't need to worry about that at all. 1/100, or excuse me, yeah, what was the shutter speed there? 1/160 is perfectly fine. I don't need to worry about that. But as soon as I want to start worrying about freezing motion, I now need a faster shutter speed. So ISO 100 is not going to cut it in this situation. There's not enough light here. I need to make my camera more sensitive to light by increasing the ISO. Okay, so what do I do in this situation if I need that faster shutter speed? Maybe I'm trying to freeze a photo where he shakes his head, which he does a lot. Well, in that case, I would raise my ISO. So again, I'll press this ISO button right here on the back of my camera. I'm going to raise this up to about, I don't know, let's go 400. And let's see what that gives us as far as the shutter speed goes. You can see, look at that. Now I'm up to 1/400, 1/640, 1/320. And that's a much better shutter speed if I'm trying to freeze motion, if that's my goal. And which I'm not trying to do here, but if I was, I would definitely need that higher ISO. In fact, if I really needed him to be moving really fast, and I really wanted to freeze that, then I'd have to raise that ISO up even higher to maybe like 1600, which I've done there. And let's see what kind of shutter speed that gives me. Look at that, 1/1600, 1/1250. And it's just a coincidence that these shutter speeds are just happening to match the ISO I'm setting. That's not a normal thing. So that, you can see, to get that faster shutter speed, which I did here, I had to crank up that ISO because I'm in the shade now. And in the shade, there's less light. So I needed to make the digital sensor more sensitive to light, which I did here. And I got that fast shutter speed that I wanted. And I was hoping he would shake his head and I could snap a photo. He's thinking about it. Oh, come on. Nah, he's not going to do it. But you can see that's a good exposure right there, and it looks nice. So I literally just paused the video, and of course, as soon as I paused it, he shook his head. What a punk. Anyways, the moral of the story is here, guys, is the darker it gets, the higher your ISO needs to be. But you only want to raise your ISO if you absolutely have to. We always want to use the lowest ISO we can. Let's go inside, and I'll give you an example of that. Okay, so I'm here inside my house, and it's quite a bit darker. Oh, there, he finally shook his head. I wasn't quite ready, but oh, I got a nice nose lick there. Anyways, I'm here inside my house. It's quite a bit darker in here. So let's look at my shutter speed here for this photo. At ISO 1600, or excuse me, ISO 1250 is what it's set to right now. My shutter speed would be 1 over 200 at f4, or 1 over 160. And so that's, again, not quite fast enough for me to freeze motion. There you go, I got it. You can see, hold on, let me pull that back up because that's a good photo. Sorry for the terrible camera work. I'm doing this all by myself. You can see I got him head shake, but look at his ears. His ears are flopping around and there's motion blur on those. And we don't want that. We want those ears to be frozen. So what am I going to do? Well, you're right. I could lower my f-stop. I'm still shooting at f4. And because this lens does go down to 1.4, I could lower that. But remember, shooting at 1.4 is going to give me that real shallow depth of field, especially as close I am to this dog. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it at f4. If I was going for a real shallow depth of field, then f1.4 would be awesome. But in this case, I need a faster shutter speed. And again, the only way I can get that now is to raise up the ISO. So I'm going to click on my ISO button, and let's go up to let's try 3200. And let's see what kind of shutter speed I can get in there. So now I got 1 over 400, 1 over 320. That's a little bit better. I'm not sure that'll be quite fast enough to freeze the motion if he decides to do a good head shake. I may need to go faster. But again, if I needed to, I could go as high as 12,800 or 25,600. I don't want to, but look at that. To get a shutter speed of 1 over 1,000 inside, it's what I had to do. So this is what like my yearbook photographers do when they're photographing football games at night or basketball games in the gym, because it's not much brighter in there than it is here inside my house. There you go, guys. That's kind of how ISO works. Remember, you always want to be using the lowest ISO you can that still gives you the shutter speed or f-stop you need. You can see if I drop this all the way down to 1 over 100, or excuse me, ISO 100, my shutter speed now is 1 over 13, 1 over 10, which would be fine. If I had a tripod and I was photographing something that was not moving, that wouldn't be that big of a deal. Then I would absolutely still shoot at ISO 100 because it wouldn't matter. I wouldn't have to worry about camera shake or motion blur. But because I've got a dog that's moving and I don't have a tripod, I got to crank that ISO up a little bit higher, or quite a bit higher in this case, in order to get the photo that I want. Hopefully that all makes sense to you guys and you understand ISO a little bit better now. We'll be working on this a little bit more over the next week and a half or so, and hopefully you'll have a pretty good understanding of it.